afternoon, everybody, from Ghost Chick and Magdalena Paranormal Heart and Souls. I wanted to talk today in reference to my show that I'm going to be doing tonight on Paranormal 101 with Ghost Chick about what happens when ghost hunting goes wrong. This is a very huge possibility that every single paranormal investigator out there should be aware of and should be ready for. So we're going to break it down. This is a really long topic, so we're going to kind of break it down into different categories. And we'll take some breaks in between because, like I said, there's a lot of information to cover on this one. Is ghost hunting dangerous? Ghost hunting is very dangerous. It's also very exciting. It's very addictive. It's very rewarding. It's very tiring. It's a lot of things. But in my personal opinion, yes, the risks outweigh, the benefits outweigh the risks. But you have to always be prepared for what can go wrong, be ready for it, and be able to handle it on a site when things do go wrong. But absolutely, ghost hunting is dangerous, but so is driving a car, going to work, going to the store. Virtually all activities in some way carry a certain amount of risk. It's up to you to make informed decisions and choices about where you're willing to go, what cases you're willing to take, and making sure that you take precaution, especially as a team leader. It is your responsibility to make sure everybody on that team is safe and stays professional at all times. Not only is your safety, and hi Linda, is your safety in your hands, your team safety is in your hands, and also your client safety is in your hands when we're on a residential investigation. Now, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about field hazards. Now, of course, guys, we're dealing with ghosts here, okay? I mean, let's just put that right out there. We're dealing with ghosts, especially our team that specializes in demonology. We take the cases that nobody else will touch. So with our team, it's especially important to have rules in place, and I am, as a team leader, I am very strict about my team rules, extremely strict. And we've had people on the team that we've had to actually get rid of in the past because they simply weren't willing to follow rules, or especially rules this strict on a team. But again, when you are dealing with such dangerous investigations, 99.9% of our cases being demonology, there has to be those rules in place, and I absolutely enforce them at all times. Now, you know, there's our everyday hazards that everybody's going to think of, you know, of attachments or possessions, whatnot. But it's the smaller things that are actually more common and more dangerous that investigators don't tend to stop and think about until it's too late, until it's happened to them, or they're already out there in the middle of an investigation and this happens, and that's not the time to think of what can go wrong. Your time to think of what can go wrong is when you're in the safety of your own home before going out there on that investigation with having anywhere up to 20 lives, depending on you, and in your hands. So field hazards. Let's start out with physical hazards. I've yet to hear of somebody getting slimed or seriously hurt by a ghost. Now, we're not talking about demons, we're talking about ghosts. And I'm going to keep this on the level of spirits and ghosts because most teams out there are dealing with demons. But you need to be especially aware, especially aware if your team does do demonology or does accept cases with dark entities. But investigations necessitate a lot of bumbling around in the dark. Believe me, I don't know how many bruised shins I've had, how many stubbed toes, trips, falls. Believe me, that, in my opinion, is your number one hazard, is falling. You can fall. especially me, and you can ask anybody on our team, I can fall over air. And trust and believe me, I'm the one that has the high heel boots on that's out there trying to do an investigation. Why, I have no idea. But shoes are a very, again, something a paranormal investigator doesn't really stop to think about until they've out there and they've biffed it a few times. Then they're going to start to think about footwear. Now, even if you're in a residential, even if you're doing a residential area, let me tell you, you still have to think of footwear, because not only are you going to be investigating the inside of the house, you're going to be investigating the outside of the house. You're going to be taking as many pictures on the outside as you're going to be taking on the inside. And on that note, as far as a residential investigation, you're not going to be using as much light sources as you would on a public investigation. You know, we're in people's neighborhoods. They usually have very close neighbors. Most people who are having an investigation done, they don't want it announced to the world that, hey, they may have a ghost in their house. They want to keep things on the down low and keep things quiet. Well, if you've got 10 team members out there with bright flashlights at 3 o'clock in the morning, believe me, you're going to cause a ruckus and you're going to draw attention to that house. So there's a fine line between keeping your team safe and keeping your clients' confidentiality as well under wraps as you possibly can. So what I suggest and what all of my team members use is, besides our big lanterns, of course, you know, we have our big boys that we pull out when we need them, but from for just every simple day flashlight gear, my suggestion is the very small headlights that go on your head, because trust me, I keep trying to find a tool belt, and I've not been able to come across one yet at a store. I'm going to have to just order one, because if there's one thing that I have problems with at an investigation, is trying to hold everything. I've got my service dog, so I've got him, I've got his leash, and then trying to hold onto a flashlight, paper, pen, your EMF detectors, whatever you are personally responsible for that night, you need 10 hands, and you just don't have that. So tool belts is something I strongly suggest for paranormal investigators also. You can just slip your stuff right in the tool belt. That frees up your hands in case you do have a fall, then you're going to be able to catch yourself. There is nothing more dangerous, more ungraceful, and very unattractive than stumbling headfirst with an armful of stuff, because you're not going to get your hands out in time. It's not going to happen. I've smashed my nose more than once trying to catch myself with all kinds of things in my hand. So that is, in my opinion, your most important part of paranormal equipment is the headlight, the flashlight that goes on your head. Now, they don't have to be expensive, and I'm going to be straight up honest with you. The ones that our team use are the dollar ones from Walmart. I have had these things for, oh my gosh, 2 years, and have not had to change batteries in them. Now, me and my lead investigator have larger headlights because we're, of course, you know, we're usually leading the group or whatnot. So our lights need to be a little bit brighter. But as far as the other team members, just those dollar headlamps are an absolute lifesaver. And as Linda says, yes, prepare for anything. And sometimes you think it's simple haunting and are truly simple, but it can turn into something dark if you're not prepared. It'll catch you off guard, very much so. Exactly. But investigations necessitate, like I said, a lot of bumbling around in the dark. There's, especially when you're in buildings that you're not familiar with, buildings that are abandoned, there's so much chance of falling, tripping, going through the floor, so many different, oh my goodness, just a second, guys, sorry. Come here, honey, did you get scared? Come here, come here, come here, it's okay. Okay, guys, sorry. The big dog scared the little baby puppy. She's not used to the big dogs yet. I think that scared her more than it scared me. Okay, you stay on mommy's lap. You're going to give me a heart attack. Okay. Are you okay now? Poor thing. Okay. Sorry, guys. Oh, where was I? Okay, it's easy to trip while wandering around in an unfamiliar space while looking through your camera, your Sunny, whatever it is you're using, your GoCam. We use night vision cameras, but even, oh, thank you. But even then, you know, with the night vision, you're still not going to see everything. Your night vision only gives you a clouded vision of what's out there, and that's not going to pick up holes or whatnot, and twisted ankles are another biggie. Fear can also be a big problem as it induces panic and poor decision making. Now, fear, and I understand, especially for new teams, they're probably, you know what, this woman's crazy. How are we going to go out and we're going to do ghost investigations, but she expects us not to be afraid? And believe me, the look I get when I tell new team members, you can't be afraid on an investigation. They look at me like I'm absolutely crazy. But with a little bit of experience and a little bit of practice, and you get used to it. Fear is not an emotion a paranormal investigator can give their self the permission to feel. Fear, fear is bad. I don't know how else to put it. Fear is bad. If you're afraid, your team's going to pick up. Your team's going to be afraid. If you've got a scared team, then God forbid your poor clients, first of all, they're not going to have any trust in you. If they know you're afraid to be there, they're certainly not going to want you there. They're not going to want anybody there if they know that who they look at as the experts are afraid. So not to mention that when you do have the dark entities or the demons, and I will be making reference, even though we're not specifically talking about cases here with demons, you will hear me make several references throughout this lecture in reference to demons. But anytime you have a dark entity or a demon, they are all fear-based and fear-fed. So if you're feeding these things by fear, all you're doing is making them stronger and stronger and stronger by the second. So when it's time to clear your houses at the end of the night and zap your demons or whatever it is specifically your team does, the more fear you show throughout the night, the harder your work is going to be for you at the end of the night when it's time to clear that premises. So again, fear is not something that we have the luxury of being able to experience as a paranormal investigator. And as ridiculous as it sounds, your mind will eventually start to block the fear out. It'll just become automatic. And a lot of people will say, well, is that overconfidence? It's not being overconfident, because of course you don't want to go in there with no fear thinking that, oh, well, nothing can touch me. That's not the kind of fear I'm saying you cannot feel. I am talking about genuine everyday fear of the dark, fear of the noises, the bumps, the things that go bump in the night. In other words, you can't be afraid of ghosts. If you're afraid of ghosts, you're afraid of spirits, if you're afraid of demons, you are in the wrong field. And that will get easier in time. Trust me, it does. Now, do I ever not get scared on a paranormal investigation? Of course not. I'm human. Everybody is going to get scared, especially when you're dealing with the types of cases that we deal with. But when you're on a site, when you're on an investigation, that's not the time to deal with your fear. You tuck that fear down in, put your big girl panties on, and you worry about being afraid later and processing it all through. Now, with that being said, I also do want to say this, though. At the end of an investigation that has been extremely intense or high emotions, we do a debriefing. Our team is always doing debriefings. So you want to make sure you're dealing with those emotions in the proper way and not just continuing to stuff them, because they're going to come out at some point, and you don't want those coming out and everything boiling over and blowing up in front of a client. That's the last thing you want. So after every investigation, of course, you want to go home, you want to relax, you want to get your rest. Then you want to deal with the emotions that you've experienced, that you've picked up throughout the investigation. But at the time you're investigating, that's not the time to deal with your feelings, especially fear. And just like Linda said, fear attracts unwanted things. Absolutely. The more fear that is being shown at the scene, the more bad things you're going to have. It's just like a magnet. They feed off your fear. That is the way a dark entity or a demon feeds, is by innocent spirits, but also chaos, fear, anger. Any rampant emotion is how dark entities become more powerful. That's how they grow, and that's how they survive. That's what they feed off of. So if you're going to be showing all of these emotions, again, you're making your own job harder for you at the end of the night once it's time to get all these things out of there that you've now been afraid of all night. And I can also tell you, a demon, back to the demon thing, is not going to take you seriously. If they sense any amount of fear in you whatsoever, when you start giving your demands and your directions, once you're ready to start your cleansing process, a demon's not going to be afraid of you. A demon's not going to take you seriously. It's hard enough to get a demon to listen to you as it is, but if a demon knows that it has got to you and that you are afraid of it, forget it. You're wasting your time. It's best just to step down and let another team member step up and try to clear that place, because you're not going to have any luck. You're not going to be able to clear them out of there if they sense any kind of fear or reservation in you. Okay. We are, wrong page, sorry, puppy's eating my paper. Okay. Many get hurt by running when they get scared. Also back to our tripping. If you do get afraid, you stand there, you be quiet, and you suck it up. Again, I don't mean to sound heartless. I don't mean to sound cruel or emotionless. I'm saying this for your best interest and for your safety. I don't care how scared you get, you stand there. If it's a situation where your team is in fear, then obviously you're going to evacuate out of there as soon as possible, but you're going to do it in an orderly, unchaotic way. You're going to tell the team, okay, let's go ahead and let's call it a night. Let's pack up, let's whatever. Our team actually has a code word that we'll use, because we don't want to, in front of a client, say, this has gotten pretty deep, this is pretty serious, and we need to get the client out of this location. You have the training, your client doesn't. Your client's gonna freak, and that's the last thing you want to be dealing with is a scared, freaked out client when you're trying to get your team, your equipment collected, your team out of there, your clients out of there, everybody in the house safely, or everybody out of that part of the house safely. Chaos is the last thing you want. So I think a code word is a very good idea, and this is a code word that we as team leaders use. I have myself, my lead investigator, and my assistant lead investigator, and this would be a code that only the three of us would use, but of course everybody in the team knows what it means when they hear this code word. That means, okay, it's basically evacuation. And number one, you get your clients to safety first and foremost. Number two, then you get your team out of there, and then last but not least, you get your equipment packed up and out of there. I don't care how big and scary a demon is, I'm not leaving $3,000 of equipment behind. I'm going to get it out of there and get the equipment out of there safely too. So it's just a simple way to keep things from escalating any further than they probably have at this point. If it's gotten to be a situation where you need to clear out, I guarantee emotions are already running high, and everybody is looking to you as a leader as to following your example. So the code word is the simplest way to let your team know, hey, it's time to get out of here. Okay. It's also a very bad idea to ever investigate alone. I can go on for reasons upon reasons upon reasons why a paranormal investigator should never go into a situation alone. Now, I know not everybody is on a team. I know not everybody has the luxury of having a team that they can be a part of. Like just where we're at, for instance, this is an extremely rural area, and we're the only team anywhere around here. The closest team is another hour, hour and a half away from where we're at. So even if you just take a partner or take a friend with you, never go to investigate alone. So many things can happen. You can fall, you can be hurt, you can be attacked by a demon, you can be attacked by an animal, you can be attacked by a person. It's a very scary world out there now, and we don't ever know what we're walking into, going into a residential investigation or a public investigation. Public buildings can be very scary. I have friends who will not go on an investigation unless they're armed. They carry guns with them. Now, our team doesn't. I have mace. We carry mace. We carry pepper spray, and we have our cell phones, of course, but we don't go as far as arming ourselves. These are, and I would not suggest that any regular, normal paranormal investigator out there carry a gun. This is a friend of mine who's in the military, who has a lot of experience with a firearm. And I know in different states, it's very common for people to carry firearms. This is my problem with that. Again, back to that fear thing. If you're not a seasoned investigator, you have no business having a weapon on you. People can get hurt. People can get shot. People think it's funny to play pranks, play tricks, and you don't ever want to approach a paranormal team during an investigation thinking it's funny, or you're going to come up on them and you're going to spook them, or you're going to this or that. It's a really, really good way to get yourself hurt. So that's where I don't like the fact of the gun coming in, because pepper spray, at the very least, somebody's eyes are going to be burning and their nose is going to be running and they're going to be very uncomfortable for about an hour, but they're going to be alive. If it's a gun, if that falling, you could fall. If the safety's not on, you could fall. Somebody can be shot. Vagrants in a building, they can end up being shot. Now, don't get me wrong. When I go into a building, when our team goes into a dark, abandoned building, I will say I have a gun. I absolutely do say, Magdalena Paranormal Heart and Souls, we are paranormal investigators. You need to sound off. We are armed, and we will shoot and ask questions later. That might sound a little harsh, but if you would see some of the buildings that we go into in some of the areas of town that we're going into these buildings, you would understand why we're a little bit cautious about going into these buildings. Again, another thing, you want to clear these buildings in the daylight. Now, even though it's daylight outside, it's still going to be dark inside a building where there's no electricity. So keep that in mind. But you want to make sure that you get to a location and you do a walkthrough in the daylight hours. You don't want it to be pitch black outside when you're trying to find your way around a location for the first time. Excuse me. Never hunt alone. Keep a first aid kit and your cell phone handy. Now, cell phones typically drain beyond unbelievably fast on an investigation. Why? Because the spirits, the ghosts that are trying to communicate with us, that we're asking to show their presence to us, and we're asking them to do all these things. Well, in order for them to do that, they have to draw energy, and the more energy they draw from the environment, that's why batteries die so quick in paranormal equipment. That's why cell phones die so quick. I have a cheap $15 phone, one of the little flip phones, and I keep it full charged. You don't even have 10 minutes on it. You don't have 10 minutes on it to dial 911 from a cell phone. But I keep this little phone charged, and I keep the address of the location where we are at written down on a piece of paper in my pocket. That might sound weird. How Do you not know where you're at? Well, yes, you may know where you're at, but if you are in the middle of an absolute emergency, one of your investigators has just fallen, broken a leg, you've got a vagrant that's now pulled a gun on your team or pulled a knife on your team, somebody's had a heart attack, you know, some big emergency, your mind's going to go blank and you're not going to think. And you don't want to be fumbling around through your bag, finding your folder, trying to get the address of where you're at. Yes, most 911 systems can pick up locations where a person's whereabouts, but why take that chance? I have on a piece of paper in my pocket the address of where we are at, the name of the building or the family's name, and what the closest to main crossroads to the location we're at. And I've never, thank God, had to use that information, but it's just better safe than sorry, because your mind's not going to be thinking straight and clearly when it is an emergency. So, and to add, on that phone, on that emergency phone, it's always on me. It's not in my bag. It's not shoved down somewhere where I have to dig for it. It's in my pocket with that little piece of paper, and I keep that phone off. I only turn it on if I have to call 911. Usually your battery is not going to die if the phone is turned off. That's not impossible. A lot of teams will allow their team members to take cell phones, but they require the cell phones to be turned off. Make sure, my point being is make sure you've got multiple cell phones on you, whether they're on or not. That way, like another thing to keep in mind though, with that, the town we live in, only Verizon and Straight Talk work here. Nothing else works. So this phone that I use as our emergency call phone, and that's what I call it, our emergency call phone, it's a Verizon phone. And Verizon picks up pretty much anywhere. That's like, that phone has the highest coverage area of any phone. So it's also good to know which team members have the same phone service as you do, or which team members has different cell phone services than you do. When you get to a location, you want everybody to check their phones, see if they do have signal. And again, then you're going to know what phone's going to actually work in that area. You don't want to wait until somebody is hurt and then you're going through 10 different cell phones trying to figure out who can call 911. The key to paranormal safety is precaution, guys. I'm telling you, don't wait until it happens to think of it. It's also a good idea to make an honest evaluation of your physical condition and take some steps to prevent problems down the line. I require paranormal investigators, if they have not seen, if they're not already under a doctor's care normally, I ask them to go get a physical. If there's heart problems, if there's allergies, if there's anything like that, high blood pressure, I need to know these things. And I have a detailed medical questionnaire that I have my team fill out. And this is also something that's in a vehicle or in the bag, close to where I can get to it if I need it. So you want to have, you know, your next of kin, their contact information to all your investigators. You want to have the same for your client. Always have a contact, an emergency contact for a client, always. Okay. The first aid kit. Don't ever go without a first aid kit. There's been times when I'm like, God, I've got so much stuff to put in this bag. How am I going to shove this in here? Do I really need this? That's not the thing you want to leave out. If you have to leave something else behind because you don't have room in your bags, don't leave the first aid kit behind. Investigating can be a lot more demanding, both emotionally and physically, than people realize. We're hiking. We're doing a lot of hiking, a lot of long walks, climbing up and down steps, climbing in holes, down in crawl spaces. when I started investigating, I was scared of the dark. I was scared of, it was very claustrophobic. That's the word I was trying to use. Very claustrophobic. Let me tell you, paranormal investigating will make those two fears go away quickly, because you're always shoving yourself down into some tiny little hole that your body's not meant to be in, or you're always in the dark. Always, always, always. Most of our lives are spent in the dark. Um, but and also, don't be a candidate for pulled muscles. This may sound mild compared to some things that can happen, but it can lead to some big problems, especially when you already have problems. I have severe back and hip problems. Like climbing up steps. I can't do steps really well unless I have a rail to hold on to because of my hip. But not only are we hiking, are we walking, you got to also understand you're going to be weighed down with anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds of equipment a piece, probably, in all reality. By the time you get all your equipment carried in, and even if you're not carrying this stuff around with you, you still have to get it from the car in and then packed back up, back to the car. And I'm telling you, if it's the number one thing I hate about paranormal investigating, it's carrying those darn bags. It's horrible. And I've joked about getting a wagon, something, and I'm telling you, by this summer, I'm going to have something in mind, some way of carrying this equipment around better. I'm going to figure something out, because the trips we make, I'm exhausted. I'm ready to go to bed before we get everything unpacked and get everything in there. So don't make yourself a candidate for pulled muscles, hernias, or even a heart attack. If you actually do see something, take medication if you need it, eat right, and exercise. You've got to be in somewhat decent shape to be a paranormal investigator. Think of the safety of others besides you and your group also. If you have equipment connected by cords, make sure you're taping those cords down, or mark off areas with safety tape to prevent trips, fails, and broken equipment. There is nothing like busting a piece of equipment. It takes so long to save up for that equipment, and the last thing you want is anything happening to it once you start building your equipment up. Now, negative spiritual influence. Some of the places and people that you meet have an unhealthy energy about them, and it can be dangerous. It can contaminate you. Be wary of these dark things and monitor yourself. It's not unusual for investigators to experience mysterious physical symptoms and mood swings. On one occasion, it gives an example. While investigating a cemetery with an unusual energy source, this person got a really pounding headache, which was not like them. It said, I've heard of other hunters coming back from investigation feeling beat up and fatigued for days afterwards. Others get nauseous, vertigo, and a range of other difficulties. Believe me, usually one of us ends up sick after an intense investigation. Well, my lead investigator, for example, his empath, he is still coming into his empath abilities, and he hasn't quite learned yet how to cut that cord. We're working on it. Believe me, this is one of the first things I teach my new investigators, the empaths, especially the mediums, is making sure you don't want to pick up that gunk. Believe me, we've got our own gunk. You don't want to pick up. And let me tell you how extreme and how dangerous this can be. When I first started out, I mean brand new investigator, I've never had any heart problems. Yes, I have other medical problems, but not health problems. I ended up having a heart attack. And we had just done an investigation where a guy had died of a heart attack. It was a very mild heart attack, thank goodness. It felt more like indigestion. I didn't even really realize it was a heart attack. And this happened to me the next day. I was actually at the doctor's office when it happened because I wasn't feeling right. I hadn't been feeling right since the investigation. I have had no idea I was getting ready to have a heart attack. But my point being is be very keen to your feelings, your emotions. If something's not right, listen to your body and don't keep pushing. If you can't go on, you don't go on. Okay. You want to get plenty of rest before you go on these investigations, and that's so hard. That is so hard. I am so pumped up before an investigation. It's unreal. Not only in a good way, but my mind is going a million miles an hour, like days before investigation, making sure I have I called everybody? Do I have all my permission slips? Have I made sure I called everybody? You know, is all the equipment new battery, tested, everything packed up, all the forms together? It's a lot. It's very trying emotionally. And investigators don't realize a lot of investigators don't realize what goes into leading a team. Being a paranormal investigator is one thing, but being a team founder or a team leader, that's a whole other story. You've got so many responsibilities on you and so much stuff that you're responsible for that mentally it gets weary. It does. You need to make sure you get rest beforehand and afterwards. Give your team a break. Don't schedule back-to-back investigations. And for the longest time, our team did this. We had so many cases coming in that I hated to tell anybody, well, it's going to be a couple weeks, or it's going to be next month till I can get to you. You don't want to tell people that. But when you've got a waiting list of cases, sometimes that's your only option. We don't take cases as they come in. Let me make that clear. We don't take them in order as they come to us. We take them in order of importance of how dangerous the family is. And then in between there, when you're not doing residential, then that's where you get to play and get to go to the public spots that you're really wanting to get into and investigate. But you've got to give your body and your mind a chance to recoup after every investigation. I used to do investigations every weekend. Every single Saturday night we schedule an investigation. I won't do it. I will not do it anymore. I try to keep it at a most of 2 a month. Now, do emergencies come in and we have to take more than that at times? Yes, definitely. Like right now, I've got 3 cases I got to do. We all just got over the flu, pneumonia. 2 of my family members, listen at me, well, they are family, but 2 of my team members just had surgery. You don't always have that luxury of waiting. Sometimes the cases are coming in and they're such severe cases and they need your attention. They need your attention now. You can't let your body get wore down. Vitamins, eating right, plenty of sleep, just taking good care of yourself, staying in good mental health, physical health. It's really important as a paranormal investigator. But back to the negative spiritual influences. Outright spiritual possession is incredibly rare. Not oppression. Spiritual oppressions. Now, let me step back for a second. When I say that, for your average team out there, oppressions may be rare. Very much so. But with a demonic team, spirit oppressions are almost every case we go on. I cannot tell you, I honest to God cannot remember the last case we went on that was not a spiritual oppression. Ours are either oppressions or getting ready to go into possession, or they're already in the process of possession, starting with possession. So you've also, on that note, you've also got to remember, if this does happen, if somebody does become possessed on an investigation, and I'm sure this article is going to talk about this at another place, so I'm going to be repeating myself, but while I'm thinking of it, have zip ties or handcuffs in your bag. You're probably like, what is this woman talking about? If somebody does get possessed, and let me tell you, it happens. It happened to me. It didn't last long. We was at Sandia Man Caves in Placida, and if any of you follow our team whatsoever, you're probably quite aware of our cases at Sandia Man Caves and what happened to me there, my big demonic battle that I had there in one of the caves. Anyhow, I became possessed. There's no other way to put it. It did not last long, and I was able, with my gifts, to pull my own self out of it. But there was a few minutes that I was like fighting everybody off. I was pushing people. Nobody could get near me. I mean, like superhuman strength, guys. And I'm serious, it is no joke. If it happens, you're going to be able to take a 250-pound man and toss him like he's a rag doll. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be wrestling somebody that's got that kind of strength. And if I have to, I need to be able to control this person physically, not only to protect myself, my team, but also to protect them from themselves, because they can self-injure. Again, that's what possession is. A demon wants your soul. And once you hit the stage of possession, sorry guys, I've got a photo bomber back there. Once you hit the stage of possession, your strength is off the charts. And I cannot tell you that enough. You're not going to be able to hold this person down. I don't care how strong you think you are. I don't care if you're a bodybuilder. You're not going to be able to hold this person down without restraints. Handcuffs and zip ties. That's something I didn't think of for the longest time. It took me a really long time before that occurred to me. Hey, it's probably a good idea if we have something that when we have to get control of somebody physically, that we can get control of them physically. So it doesn't have to be handcuffs. Again, it can be just zip ties. But again, also make sure, of course, that if you've got handcuffs, you've got the key, and if you've got zip ties, that you've got a knife to get the zip ties off in case of emergency also. But outright spiritual possession is incredibly rare in normal paranormal investigating cases, okay? It occurs after a number of mental, emotional, and spiritual barriers have been broken down. So it's not usually something that just, boom, happens. But you also have clients that are not truthful with you. And it may not be a matter of them not being truthful. It may be a matter of them not recognizing the signs that this has been going on for weeks, months, or even years. And they're just so used to it that they're not recognizing the signs of it. So usually a possession, again, can take days at a minimum. More than likely it takes months or years. But again, that's not always the case. There's never anything is set in stone, and always be prepared for the unexpected in paranormal. There is no norm. There is no normal in the paranormal. That's words to live by. But as chilling decades of stories that we've heard goes during a psychiatric session, it can happen quickly, especially an investigator with gifts. Because if a demon gets their sights set on somebody, they're not gonna wait around. They want that person, and they want that person now. It's not going to be a spiritual manifestation, spiritual oppression, and then going into possession. No, boom, it's going to go straight to spiritual possession. And that's something you've always got to be prepared and ready to deal with. Okay? Demonic oppression is far more common, like we just talked about, though subtle phenomenon. It's not as obvious as a possession. It's more subtle. But the closer you get to possession, the more unsubtle the symptoms and signs are going to get. Have you ever been around a person that you thought you knew, and maybe they've been going through a tough time for a while and were already a bit ragged, but then one day they acted extraordinarily hostile, aggressive, and just plain weird? Okay. A theory on that is unsavory beings can pull puppet strings in certain vulnerable areas, so watch out. And we'll discuss this a little bit more under spiritual safety when we get to that section. But talking about their paranormal experiences, or better yet, relating a friend of a friend story here. Stay polite but skeptical, and keep in mind the old Latin question, who benefits? When a group goes out on a paranormal investigation, I mean, if you're honest with yourself, deep down inside, you're kind of hoping for a good scare. I'm just being honest. I'm just being truthful. And any paranormal investigator who tells you otherwise, they're not being candid and truthful with you. There is, of course, we're in this to help clients, to help spirits, and that's the reason we become paranormal investigators. But there's still that adrenaline junkie inside each one of us, or we would not be doing this. Normal, sane people don't go around chasing ghosts, guys. I mean, it's just a matter of fact. There's something about that fear factor and that adrenaline that we're drawn to. So deep down, we're wanting that scare. But being haunted, you know, running into a nice little ghosty and coming face to face with an outright possessed person, or coming face to face with a demon, it's two quite different things. And one you may be hoping for and quite prepared for. The other two, I don't think anybody can ever be fully prepared for. Direct assault. Okay. Normal terrestrial. Many buildings you investigate may be located in unsavory parts of town, like we talked about earlier, and you may encounter everything from homeless panhandlers to violent murderers or rapists in the big cities. Don't wind up becoming a victim or a ghost yourself. Travel in groups, carry a cell phone, and stay alert to your surroundings. Also, in royal and also not so royal areas, be wary for wild dogs, snakes, anything with tooth and claws. They can bite and it's going to hurt, okay? So you need to be careful. It's not only the ghosts and the demons that we're in danger from, okay? I trust, again, people's heard me say this and they've looked at me like I'm insane. And I think you have to have, on some certain level, you got to have a little bit of insanity in you to do this. Again, like I said, sane people don't go around in the dark chasing monsters and ghosts. They run the other way. But I trust ghosts a lot more than I trust living people. I can relate to ghosts. I can talk to ghosts rationally. A lot of people, you can't rationalize with a murderer. You can't rationalize with a rapist. You can't rationalize with a dog, with a wild dog that's about to tear you to limb to limb. A ghost, you kind of can't, especially with experience. So I feel safer. Ghosts don't scare me anymore. I feel a lot more safer around ghosts than I do a lot of human beings. Entity assault, though. Now, on that note, this is one of the most rare of hazards, but it's been reported by hunters in the field. Most you usually hear of is someone getting pushed. Well, not with our team. Again, the cases we take and the cases we deal with are different than most your average team. So we have a lot of different things we have to look out for that your average paranormal investigator doesn't. But every paranormal investigator needs to keep in mind that you don't ever know. You may think you have an average run-of-the-mill case, an average little friendly ghost, and you get there and you got 7 demons in the house. They hide, guys. They hide. It takes a lot to get a demon to show themselves to you. but it also only takes one mistake to get a demon to show themselves to you. And if you are not a demonologist, you don't want a demon showing themselves to you, because what are you going to do with it? If you don't know what to do with the demon, what are you going to do when, boom, you got one in front of you and you've got clients and a whole team to protect? So even though if your team doesn't normally deal with dark entities or demons, don't think that you don't have to worry the same way we do, because you have just as much chance as running into one as we do. Now, there exists excuse me, there exists a video somewhere, and I've heard so many people talk about this video, and I've tried to YouTube this video. I don't know if it's been taken down, but I haven't ever found the video, so I can't tell you for sure if it does exist or not. But I've heard several different people talk about a video where a ghost investigator nearly, basically, as the story goes, they're sticking their head into an attic, and they nearly get strangled by electrical wire. Again, never hunt alone, and a good first aid kit and cell phone nearby. That's why, again, I said you want the cell phones in your pocket, not in your car, not in your bag. If a lot of teams, leaders require cell phones to be turned off, if that's the case, still have them on you. Don't leave them in the car. You need a phone. Every single investigator on your team needs a phone within hand's reach at all times. Okay. Upsetting property owners and getting sued or arrested. Not fun to talk about, but let's talk about it. This is a pretty obvious one, guys. Don't trespass. It's real simple. Don't go anywhere you don't have a signed permission slip saying you have permission to be on said premises at said time and on said date. Our team will not step foot into somebody's house or into a building without a permission slip in place. Several permission slips in place. I don't just have one. I have different permission slips for us being there. I have permission slips giving us permission to investigate, allowing us to be on the property. I am very careful when it comes to this. You've got to be. You've absolutely got to be. And I'm going to tell you, we found out the hard way. And thank goodness I had, this thing is driving me crazy, sorry. Thank goodness I had all of these slips in place. You guys have heard, if you follow our team at all, you've probably heard me in one of my videos mention our hoax we had. We had a case invented, basically made up by black witches who was trying to get us to their location because they wanted to battle my powers at 3 a.m. When things didn't quite go their way and they didn't get what they wanted, then they turned around and tried to say, well, we don't even know this person. She just showed up on our doorstep. And I had been talking to these people for weeks. This had been an investigation. I had researched for weeks. I had been in contact with them for weeks. And you don't ever know when you're going to need to stick those permission papers in a cop's hand, acknowledging this acknowledgement from a property owner that you do have permission to be there. Remember, you are a guest on somebody else's property. Always get permission to be there. Always. And be nice, be professional, be polite at all times. If somebody doesn't give you permission, they have that right. And you have to remember that. There may be a place you want to investigate so bad. Like this is on your bucket list. You want to investigate and they don't let you. Well, that's their right. And you don't have a right to be there investigating unless you're given that permission. Okay. I've heard stories, different teams talking, and it blows my mind, where they've went to buildings, pulled off boards to get into locations. No, 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 no. That you are setting yourself up for so many legal ramifications by trespassing on a property that you do not have permission to be there. Um, and in a lot of states, the property owner has the right to shoot you. If you're on their property without permission, a lot of them in, these gun carrying states, they're going to shoot and ask questions later. It's never worth it, guys. Don't ever try to investigate if you don't have permission to be there. Have absolute impeccable manners. And this is something that will get one of my investigators in deep water quicker than anything. I expect 100% professionalism when dealing with clients, or when I'm dealing with a client, when I'm speaking to a client. Please don't interrupt me. That's what you have a lead investigator for. That's what you have an investigator for. Unless, of course, it's an emergency. But, I mean, just common sense, always show absolute manners and courtesism. You are only as good as your last job. And remember that. Once you get a bad reputation in this field, you might as well forget it and throw in the towel, because nobody's going to let you investigate. We always give a thank you letter once we get there. And then I also, I always bring a small gift for a homeowner and for kids especially, to kind of break the ice, to put them at ease with us. Usually, I've never had a kid afraid of us. And it's totally the opposite. They absolutely are so excited about what we're doing and about the equipment and about the camera, and I let them get involved. I'll let them hold the cameras. I'll let them hold things for me. I'll let them take a couple pictures. I let them show me their rooms. But on that note, also, don't ever be alone with anybody under the age of 18 without a parental adult in the room with you. Don't ever leave the room with a child, even if you have another team member with you. That's still not good enough. You need to have that parent with you. Don't ever talk to a child alone. Don't ever go into a child's bedroom alone. Guys, it's a scary world, and it's sad that we have to think of the things that we do today, and that we have to watch out for some of the things that we do have to watch out for, but it's reality, okay? And then we always follow up by sending, I either give a gift, or if I don't get a chance to get a gift, then I always send a thank you card. And if I hadn't got a chance to get a gift for the person there, then I'll send them a small gift certificate for like a local coffee shop, or, something that leaves a very good professional taste in their mouth. I always want them to feel like we are at our absolute most professional behavior when we're there. And I don't stand for nothing less for my team members. I've kicked team members off for inappropriate behavior around clients. It's just something I won't stand for. I won't. That's my team's name, and that's my name on the line. And you're not going to ruin all the work I've done, and you're not going to ruin all the work my team has done. If you're not going to be professional and follow our rules, then our team's not for you. And it's always hard to make that decision and make that call, but it's always better safe than sorry. You don't want a team member that's going to make you look bad. It's never worth it. I don't care how gifted they are. I don't care what connections they come with. Nothing's worth it. Your reputation and your name is everything in this business. Your reputation goes a long ways also towards opening doors, and you might be surprised of how small a world it really is out there. Okay. Boredom. This can be the biggest killer of any paranormal team. If people get bored, they'll find other things to do with their weekends, and they're not going to want to be investigating with you. Boredom may also encourage people to be more reckless with investigations, take more chances, provoke, and it's just not a good thing. On many investigations, nothing, okay, how do I put this? On most teams, most teams, when they go out on investigations, a lot of times they won't get evidence. Nothing will happen. Our team, like I said, a lot of our cases we get handed down to us. So we know there's something there. I've never went on a case where I haven't had a successful investigation, a successful EVP, evidence off the hook. But it happens, okay? It happens, and not every investigation is going to be the exciting investigation of a lifetime. And you've got to get through those mundane, kind of everyday investigations to get to those really, really, really exciting investigations. And you have to look at, this is how I look at every investigation. I either look at it, well, this is how I look at everything in life, either as a success or as a learning experience. So take those cases where you don't have a lot of paranormal activity and use it for training, use it for teaching. You know, if you're on a quiet location, not much is happening, use that as a teaching time. You know, switch up equipment. Always let different team members use different cameras and use different pieces of equipment. Make sure everybody gets to use everything, you know, that everybody gets to do different things on different investigations. You know, there's ways to ward off that boredom. And always make sure every member of your team knows how important they are to the team and to the investigation. I'm not any more important or of any more value than any investigator on my team. Everybody has their role to play, and everybody's role is just as important, whether you're just a tech, whether you're a lead investigator, whether you're a founder. Every role that every individual plays on investigation is very important. Excuse me, guys, this cough is just not going away. And try to screen your cases the best you can. I try to mix mine up. I try to get in at least once a month a heavy hitter, is what I call it. And a heavy hitter is a place where we already know there's paranormal activity. Either this place has a reputation, reputation for, you know, really high in activity, or you've screened it well and you know ahead of time you're going to get investigation, you're going to get evidence. So I try to mix it up, and we have to, you know, every case isn't going to be an exciting heavy hitter, but if you mix your cases up and you try to at least once a month get one good one in there, that usually keeps your people coming back, and that keeps their interest. And when we're not investigating, we're training. I mean, we're always doing something. Always. I've got my team involved in something. If not, they're not going to want to stay with you. They're going to want to go with a team that keeps things exciting. And then you're going to lose good team members. So you want to give them a reason to be there. And one of your main reasons is by letting them know how important they are and how much you appreciate them. Like at Christmas time, I threw a big Christmas party. Did the gifts, did the whole 9 yards for the team and for our team that we're a chapter of. Valentine's Day, you know, it's just something small, but we're going to do a really small sweet a pizza party with a sweet exchange, and then we're going on an investigation. We're going to be doing that on the 13th, the night before Valentine's Day. I also try to never schedule anything directly on a holiday. Always be respectful that they do have family at home, and you know, the holidays they're going to want to spend with their families. Like traditionally, the month of December we take off, except for training. I don't schedule investigations in December. It's too hectic of a time. Now, do cases come in that we got to go investigate? Yeah, that always happens. It's a no-fail for us. Every time we take time off, or we think we're going to take time off, something happens, and we'll get a flood of cases. But we try to keep things at an absolute bare minimum over the holidays. You know, people are stressed out as it is. Emotions are high. People are in town. People don't want us in their houses during the holidays. Your team's not going to want to be out investigating over the holidays. They're going to want to be home with their family. But despite your best efforts, dull vigils do happen. Take the opportunity to learn something new while there. Talk to the property owners and so forth, and do so without compromising your research. Try to look at each moment spent as time well spent. Not saying no when you should. It's tough when your best friend, neighbor, etc. wants to go on a real-life ghost hunt with you. And in some cases, you may be able to accommodate them. But in others, if you don't say no soon enough, you can end up with a nightmare. Once we had a very reputable spot we investigated, and it took me 8 months to get in there. I was given a certain number by the owner of the property of how many people I could bring with me. I had people begging. I had people off trying to bribe me. I had people offering to pay me. Please let me go on this investigation. First and foremost, it was a building that was under construction, so I did not want that that liability of taking guests. Secondly, I knew this was going to be a very high-profile place. I knew this was going to be a lot of evidence, and that I was going to be busy. That I was not going to have time to babysit guests on this investigation. When you do have a lower, when you have a place that you know is not going to be a heavy hitter, and you want to open up your investigation to the public, do that. Get the public involved. Let them see what it is that you do. This is also the perfect time to get your new team members, is when you open it up for the public. But you got to be very particular on when and where you do something like that. Okay. The other factor to keep in mind is investigating public buildings or property during normal business hours. Naturally, you're going to arouse curiosity or even fear due to these uncertain political times. So it may be best, oh, sorry guys, hold on, I don't know what that is. So it may be best to get as much privacy as you can, or just be extremely low-key about your investigations. Offering these suggestions on the premise that you wish to have the best possible data and efficient time. However, if socializing and meeting new people is more your thing, then maybe you want to steer towards specializing in public investigations. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, some people hold an event at almost every investigation they do. It just depends on what your team's goals are and what priorities your team has. A lot of valuable networking in investigation leads and friends come about in the course of this sort of contact by a public investigation. So you need to strike a balance kind of between openness and getting your work done. Like we done at Christmas time, we done a public investigation, we done a fundraiser for Toys for Tots at the DUI compliance office in the nearby town. And that went over really good. This was a heavy hitting area. We knew there was heavy evidence there, but non-demonic evidence. You know, we just knew there was a lot of paranormal activity. There was not demons. There wasn't, you know, the bad things going on. This was a team that was open, a location that was open to the public on a daily basis, so it was safe to have people in there. We ended up getting a lot of leads, new members, and of course we, you know, what better way than to help out with Toys for Tots. You know, it was a really good experience for everybody involved, and that's something that I hope to do on a yearly, on an annual thing, from an annual basis from now on. This was kind of like just kind of threw together at the last moment, but it was wonderful. We had a blast. Lack of diplomacy about the investigation with property owners. While it may seem that I've already covered, or at least alluded to this in previous things I've mentioned, I feel this deserves a little bit more specialized attention. Bottom line, you need to be damn careful what you say to the public, especially in someone's residence. A lot of times people believe their place is haunted by dear Uncle Sal, and by golly, that's what they want to hear from you as well. But you find no evidence to support that, so what do? I would say, well, I'm not finding anything on my instruments this evening, but I can't refute that Uncle Sal is not here in some way. Don't ever get into a debate with a client. Don't ever go heads. Don't ever bat heads with a client. You know, it's not worth it. Again, the reputation and keeping the client happy. What if you suspect poltergeist activity and you think it centers around the 13-year-old daughter, for instance? Well, you have to be able to diagnose, you have to be able to question, you have to be able to investigate without coming off of some pervert who wants to gear this towards a child, or it's education. When it's something of this manner where children's involved, education is the key here. I think the more in any case, the more educated your client is, the more you educate your client, the better. You want that client to have all the knowledge possible. Okay, uncovering things you don't want to. What if on an investigation of a residence, it becomes somewhat obvious that child abuse is going on, or an affair, or elder abuse, or domestic violence? I can't make this call for you. This is something that you're going to have a policy in place, hopefully ahead of time, before you get this dropped in your lap, because it's never pleasant for anybody, but it's going to happen, and it's going to happen to your team. Trust and believe, the world it is today, you're eventually going to run across it. Trust your gut instinct. Don't ever go against what your gut's telling you. I will warn you that the signs can be very subtle. Just because someone thinks their house is haunted doesn't mean you're obligated to investigate either. There are a number of reasons why somebody might call you in on a case which has nothing to do with it being haunted. Misinterpretation of phenomenon, lonely and in need of attention, validation for emotional reasons, potential monetary gain from notoriety or other income sources that you're not aware of, a hoax for fun, like those black witches who decided they wanted to battle my powers at the witching hour, or mental illness. And on this one, you have to use extreme caution. The final item bears special mention. There's been a number of reports in the field from investigators who were called out to private residences to investigate a haunting, only to discover that there were far worse problems than ghosts. Some people cultivate such a nasty and degraded energy field that just permeates their surroundings. If you're contacted by someone and the communication has been incoherent, or there's just a weirdness about it, beware. If you drive by their home and you see trash piled up, an overgrown lawn, other signs of significant neglect, double danger. Always check out your property before you go there. You don't ever want that to be your first time in a location, is when you're showing up to investigate. If the home is strewn with garbage, smells bad, or shown signs of illegal activity, then you're long past the danger point, and this is an investigation that you may very well just want to pass on. Crypt or rude investigations. Even the best laid plans can go awry. Most of the time, you know, you have these planned out. You've done everything you can. You've done all the research. And it might be a night where you have a party going on next door to where you're investigating. Outdoor vigils well, let's just say, we'll go with that one. Let's say you're investigating and there happens to be a party going on next door where there's loud music, a lot of drinking, drug use, whatever have you. Nothing really bad happened except, noise distractions. But outdoor vigils can be scrubbed due to noise problems. They could be scrubbed due to weather conditions, or if not completely ruined. They can certainly alter your style. And here's some examples. Obviously, this can make you and your equipment, the rain's what we're talking about here, sorry, rain. Obviously, this can make you and your equipment wet, plus carrying an umbrella leaves only one hand free, and I guarantee there's no hands free on investigation. Flash photography is almost a joke, and the slippery can be dangerous. Mud can make walking unpleasant and give you no place to set equipment down, and you also may have to be watching out for flash flooding in certain areas. Fog. Again, so much for ectoplasm photos, but in theory, you might see something on video moving through the mist. Pretty rare to be investigating under these conditions. Depending on where you're at, though, the extra creepiness in the atmosphere, it may be worth it. Just be careful with the footing and driving. Okay, humid. This can cause condensation on camera lenses, in windows, so keep a cloth handy. It's a good idea to have a cloth handy and to keep those camera lenses clean throughout the night. Our team recognizes orbs, but believe me, I have done intense training and studying on orbs, and I know what an orb is and what an orb isn't. And the number one thing that gets mistaken for an orb is dust on the camera lens. Make sure those camera lenses are clean. Us just sitting here, me doing this, I can see dust because I've got the curtains open. I can see dust floating through the air. I can see things that on an investigation, yeah, it's daylight, and I know I'm taping, and I know that window's open, and I know sun's coming in. So I know those things flying around are dust and pet hair or whatever have you. But on an investigation, keeping those camera lenses clean is absolute key. Also, don't leave your equipment in the car in the humidity. It can destroy certain plastics like films and instruments. Get tinted windows on your car, reflective sun shields, and drink more water than you think you need on a humid day. Dehydration can cause errors in judgment and lead to heat stroke. Investigating in the cold can cause your breath to condense, producing false photographic anomalies. Certain equipment, such as electronics, may fail below a certain temperature. Also, freezing temperatures can present hazardous walking and driving conditions, as well as danger from hypothermia. Wind. Without a windscreen, microphones and recording equipment may have trouble operating in these conditions. Ambient noises. For outdoors, proximity to busy streets is a big problem. You may be able to mitigate going out late at night, though your flashlights may alert passerbys to your presence. Hopefully you've talked to police dispatch beforehand and let them know that you're going to be there. If not, there's nothing worse than having 20 police cars show up to run an investigation. The other big problem is insects and other wildlife. In swampy areas of like Louisiana, for example, on a sultry summery night, the noise field can be quite considerable. Ambient light. Glaring security lights on certain properties can make it difficult to get good video and still pictures. So can the headlights from passing vehicles, which can reflect and cause false images. Wildlife. Bugs can cause false orb impressions on video. And speaking of wildlife, dogs. I mean, you've always got to watch the dogs. And that's where your pepper spray comes in handy, because you never want to hit somebody's dog. You never want to injure somebody's dog. Pepper spray is going to make them very unhappy, but it's not going to make you have to hurt them to get out of there safely. The other big problem is group members and property owners canceling out on you at the last minute, and this never fails. You can think you've got a full team going, you've got this is a heavy hitter, every team member said, yeah, I'm going to be there, and it never fails. Somebody will cancel on you. So I used to have planned out in my head exactly what job every investigator was going to do on an investigation. I don't plan that out anymore. It's a waste of time. I get kind of a somewhat game plan in my head, and then I just kind of go with it from there, because emergencies come up, people change their minds. It's something you got to be prepared for, and it's going to happen. Things do happen, and plan B has to be waiting in the wings. Property owners telling you no. This is a big disappointment, but it happens plenty. You find a really cool place to hunt, get your hopes up, and contact the people in charge. Unfortunately, they say they're not interested. No way, no how, go away. There is a mirage of reasons why this may be. And bottom line is, it's their right to say no. Don't hinder them. Don't keep harassing them. Once you get no, it's no. Perhaps they don't want attention drawn to their place. That they don't. In some places, it may be a business like a hotel, for example, where they don't want the public knowing that it's haunted. So they have their reasons, and you just have to take that to heart and on to your next one, because you're going to get turned down for locations. It's going to happen all the time. Our big heavy hitter that we did, that I was talking about, it took me 8 months to get into this place, and believe me, the gentleman, wonderful man, nicest person in the world, and he was great, but he had been hounded by so many teams wanting in there that he had just made the decision he wasn't going to let anybody investigate. Well, after talking to him and him getting to know me and getting to know our team better and what our team was about, and then he came around. So don't just because it's no doesn't mean they're not going to come around, but you don't want to hound people to death either. You got to understand they have their reasons for saying no. Okay. Now, there's certain places that's going to give you problems. Schools and dorms, government buildings, military bases, wealthy residences, churches, very large cemeteries, banks, jewelry shops. You basically don't get your hopes set up on investigating at any of these places, because it's just, the likelihood of you getting in there is low to none. The following types of places it's easier to get into. You might want to set your sights on smaller graveyards, historic sites, hotels, restaurants, bars, taverns, marine vessels, private residences, bookstores, battlefields, parks and national forests. And generally you have to get a permit beforehand. So keep that in mind. That can take weeks sometimes. So always find that out ahead of time if you need a permit to be there. No place to hunt. If you're unfortunate enough to live in a remote part of the country, you could actually run out of places to investigate. I don't think that would ever happen to us, but always have that list of investigations that to go towards when you're having downtime to fall back on. Okay, now there is 3 stages to this, 3 parts to this lecture that I'm going to do, and that pretty much brings us to the end of part 1. The second part is going to go into more about theft, damage, property damage, a little bit more into legal issues. So we're going to call this one part 1, and we're going to leave it here. And then when I come back on to do my next Facebook Live, then it will be part 2 of when things go wrong, and that's when we'll get into more of the legal ramifications. And believe me, no paranormal investigator wants to miss this one. You can be in big trouble legally if things aren't done correctly and you don't have your ducks in a row. So stay tuned for part 2 to when things go wrong with the paranormal investigating. Now, I do want to re-invite everybody back at 6 p.m. Mountain Time for my show. Every Wednesday night, I do a show on NAPPN TV at 6 p.m. And it is nappn.net/chat.html. And the site is all over our site. And again, it's every night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And tonight we have an amazing guest. Let's hope not. An amazing guest, Amy Jo. She's was a famous paranormal investigator, and kind of the whole reason of my topic today, things went really bad for her in the paranormal field. Things went really, really bad to where she had to leave everything she knew behind. She had to leave the paranormal behind and even all of her belongings behind. So this is an extreme case where things went horribly wrong. So tune in tonight at 6 p.m. for that, and welcome Amy Jo with me. And next week we're going to have a really big guest who I don't like to announce my next guest until I've done my guest for this week, because I want to give them all my time and attention. But just a little hint, it's going to be somebody from Breaking Bad, from the television show Breaking Bad. So that will be announced on tonight's show, who next week's guest is going to be. So you don't want to miss this week or next week. Two very exciting shows coming up. Okay, guys, well, I'm going to call it quits for now and take a little break before the show tonight at 6. The show's in an hour and a half. And this is our pre-Valentine's show tonight, as you see with all my hearts all over the backdrop. So get your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, mate, whatever, and snuggle in for tonight at 6 o'clock and watch the show together tonight. And what better way to spend a pre-Valentine's Day than listening to a paranormal show, okay? All right, guys, as always, I love each one of you. Thank you, and welcome to all of our new members. We have got so many new members. It's amazing, and I am so excited to have each one of you here. This page is for you guys. This is for you to post things and not worry about being bullied, not worry about your evidence being torn apart or people talking down to you. This is a safe paranormal site to have discussions, to share evidence, and I make sure of that. I make sure to I run this group really tight, because I don't ever want people to feel how I have felt in other groups. I want this to be a safe place for us to all come and discuss our love of the paranormal and learn about the paranormal and share our evidence with each other. So anytime you have anything you want to share, please post away. This is your site. And if there's a topic for our new members, if there's a topic that anybody would like to hear me speak on, please shoot me a message, and I will put that on my list of to-do topics. Guys, I'm so excited. We finally have got the YouTube channel up. There's nothing on it yet, but it is up. So I'm going to start doing videos on YouTube as well as Facebook Live. So you may have to kind of go back and forth to get everything from now on, but I will still continue to always do Facebook Live on here no matter what. So thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I hope to have you all back here at 6 o'clock. So lots of love and happy early Valentine's Day from Ghost Chick and Magdalena Paranormal Heart and Souls. See you all back here at 6. Bye-bye.